Cool. Well, thanks for having me, guys. I'm Shawn Masavage. I'm the founder of EdgeTech Labs. We are a hardware product development company. And first thing I'll say is, yes, recharging batteries is very important. So I guess the best way to talk about our company is to kind of tell the story of how we came to be. It was pretty unique. We started from very humble beginnings and really bootstrapped our way into existence. And it's been quite an exciting ride. Every day is a roller coaster, and now this year we're kind of feeling like we're just going over little bumps instead of gigantic drops and rises. So with hardware, it's an interesting beast to tackle. It's very different from software. Software is a very important part of it, but it's just one part of it. We have logistics, supply chains to manage. We have physical things that are out in the world that can break. You have people doing things with your product that you can't even conceive of. I mean, if you look through the warnings in our instruction booklet, I don't even want to say what's in there. It's kind of gross what we have to call out and say, don't do this. So to start, I'll talk about the product you'll probably recognize us by, which is DrinkMate. DrinkMate is a miniature smartphone breathalyzer. It's 2/3 the size of a chapstick. I have a couple up here if you guys ever want to come up and take a look. And it's very cool, very, very cool. Well, before I get to that, so I want to talk about how I brought this company into existence, because it really shows that anybody can do this. This was not something I'd ever done before. I had learned everything along the way. So 2013, this was my desk. I thought this was the perfect way to start my career. I was working for a defense contractor. I was an engineer. They were called Excelis. I'm sitting there, I had my protein powder up on the top. You know, it was just great. Cubicle, perfect. Well, about a year into that, I realized that was not what I wanted to do for 30 years. Just perfect example of this. This is kind of how I spend my day sometimes, making schools of paper clips. So it's just binder clips. Not to say I was inspired by this, but it was kind of ironic that it came up at the same time. Just fortune cookie, now is the time to try something new. Started getting ideas. I'm an engineer by degree, a mechanical engineer. I was an electromechanical engineer there. And I started thinking hard, how can I bring a product into existence? And right about the same time, smartphone breathalyzers started coming onto the market. And I saw them, how they were executed, and I said, I can do this better. So I started looking at them, and I was thinking, how can I do it better? And I was actually inspired by this little chapstick here over on the right, and said, if it was this size, if it was this convenient, this could be a game changer. So I set out to prototype it. Took a lot of work. All of this was outside of a full-time job. Going with just whatever tools I had available, borrowed tools, hand-me-downs, and I actually created prototypes of DrinkMate here on the right. And that's all well and good. It was great. It had all the features that I wanted to incorporate into it. It really was the game changer. Definitely stood out against the competition. But how do you bring this to life? How could me, an individual, do this? There's tremendous costs associated with hardware. I mean, tooling alone, a rule of thumb is each little plastic piece in something costs about $5,000 in tooling, if you're lucky. So enter Kickstarter. Kickstarter is how we got the money to actually go out and get this thing manufactured, but there were a bunch of other benefits that came along with it as well. It showed us where our target markets were. It showed us what people were desiring. It showed us in different countries what people were going to use them for. 47% of our sales from Kickstarter were international, and it was incredible. The press we got from it was quite revealing. It showed that, for example, in the US, unfortunately, there is a drinking and driving problem, and it's just part of our culture. But in Europe, it's essentially gone. People use it to make sure they're back to a zero before they go to work the next day. So it showed us where target markets were. It was great. Now, at this time, I was still at a full-time job. I was actually working for the government at this point, for the Office of Naval Research. And I found, at the same time, I brought on my co-founder, Brandon Borko, and we needed to get this thing manufactured and start kicking things off. So, off to China. This was quite fun to tell my bosses at the time. Oh, where are you going on vacation? China, for business. So we went over there and had to oversee the production run. Very exciting, very interesting. They were a great group to work with. Our manufacturer is fantastic, but everything needs to be laid out. This thing right in the middle, they had these sheets along every station. Every distinct detail of what was happening at that station was laid out. And if there was a deviance from that, everything would get messed up. I mean, everything. It was a fascinating cultural experience. So one of the first challenges we encountered with this was that our method for calibrating the devices was incorrect. We needed a physical way to calibrate them to an actual alcohol solution. And this was a bit of a panic, and hopefully it's where my co-founder is sitting over here, by the way. Hopefully it's where we bonded a bit. We spent a solid 3 weeks in a basement building this machine. It looks like a time machine, and it kind of sounds like one too when you turn it on. But these are pieces of industrial equipment. They calibrate each DrinkMate as it goes through the manufacturing process. It programs them. It gives us insights into how each one is performing, quality control, all sorts of things like that. But we did design it and build it in 3 weeks and ship it. And that was terrifying. That was definitely a moment where we thought, okay, we just FedEx this to Hong Kong. Hopefully it gets there. Like, what happens if it doesn't get there? They had to smuggle it into China. Because, I mean, if you look at this thing on the left, that's actually the shipping carton we shipped it in. They're not going to let that through the border. They don't know what it is. Our manufacturers said it's completely legitimate, but they're going to be terrified by it and just sit on it for a month or two. So I'm honestly not sure how they got it into China, but it did not go through normal methods. So that was great. We created the Android version. We said, okay, we're going to sell this. It's going to be amazing. Nobody would buy it. They wanted the iPhone version before they would buy anything. So on to the next Kickstarter. This was very impromptu. We just decided one day, okay, this is what has to happen. This is how we're going to, we had no funding at this point, and we just needed to continue proving ourselves in the market. So we launched the iPhone Kickstarter. Whole different beast. This time we didn't get a tremendous amount of media coverage. We had to really work for it. Quite frankly, it's because it looks the same as the Android device. Because it looked the same, people thought it was the same, and they didn't care quite as much. So it was fascinating to go through that process as well. Similar sales traction, but it gave us markets to target all over the world. It's great. Australia this time for the iPhone version was just, it's like they woke up one day and discovered us. So many orders started coming in. It's nuts. They love us down there. Partially because of the name DrinkMate. I'll take credit for that one. But yeah, so the next step after this, back to China. So this time we had more challenges to face. And the challenge this time was Apple. Apple is scary. We were terrified. We had to get our product MFI certified, which means made for iPhone. And their process for that is not forgiving, not friendly. It took us a while for them to even recognize us as a company. And let us into their system and give us the schematics on iPhones down to the hardware level, the physical components inside. So we went to China, and on 3 days' notice, we were waiting for approval from Apple, and they failed us over and over again. They failed us, I think, 3 or 4 times before we actually decided, okay, we're going. And we got on a plane to China, and we did not have a return date. We were going to stay there until it was finished. So we found a nice little hotel in a side street, someplace we could hole up in for a while. It was good, fun experience, but we were there for a month. Actually, I was there for 3.5 weeks, and I had a very sad moment where I had to leave my co-founder behind when we just couldn't finish things in time. Food was great. It's always a fun experience over there. We have fantastic hosts, but we had to work the entire time. For getting this approved by Apple, we had to buy every single iPhone with a Lightning connector. And a fun story about this is there are no iPhone 5Cs in China anymore. Every single iPhone 5C has been bought and repackaged to look like an iPhone 5S and sold as an iPhone 5S. It's a bunch of iPhone 5Cs with the thumbprint reader, but it doesn't work. It's crazy how different the culture is over there. And we were even talking to Apple on the phone. We're saying, are you aware of this? And they're like, no, what are you talking about? And we're like, are you serious? They have no idea. Maybe they're just in denial. But it was a fun prank when we brought it back to Brandon. And I said, here you go. Here's your iPhone 5C. And he looks at it and says, this is a 5S. And I'm like, no, it's a 5C. And he's fun. But plugging it in, it's a 5C. So one of the challenges as well in China is we had to teach through a language barrier how to actually implement our quality control measures. And one of the challenges was the alcohol solution that we calibrated with. We were teaching them chemistry in this scene, and it's just so challenging. But at least math is kind of a universal language, I will say that. But the translation barriers, it's another challenge with hardware, because hardware, most part, some component is manufactured in China. But it's fun. These are meetings with all sorts of factories. We have our circuit board factory here. We have our Apple certified factory. That was something else we had to source. We have component suppliers here. Everybody in the same room meeting to say, how are we going to get this done? And this is something where I think it's a little bit different from the US. People meet up and say, we're going to do this and we're going to do this now. And then they go out and they build it right then and there. This week they went out, they tweaked the tooling, they made it work. We had to make changes due to requirements for a connector that couldn't be connected to our circuit board. Really intricate, challenging things that it'd be easy to say, okay, forget this, just not going to do it. But they do not give up. They get things done. It's an incredible work ethic over there. It's a fun experience. But all this said, the reason DrinkMate is successful is because we gave the market what they were demanding. It's super easy to use, it's fun to use, and it changes the previously negative stigma of a product that has been associated with police. People use it and like it and enjoy it, and that's what the market wanted. And we proved it through Kickstarter. And now when we've been going through investment rounds, we're currently in another investment round, it's amazing to be able to walk in and say, boom, here's how many people we've sold it to, here's what they're saying, here's why they like it. It's one thing to sell to a retailer. I mean, it's amazing to sell to a retailer. You'll sell 10,000, or more, many, many more, but you don't get the feedback. Kickstarter gave us the feedback we needed to make this successful. We have, I think, 4,500 individual customers throughout the world from Kickstarter alone, and all of them would give us feedback. If something worked great, they'd say yes. If it didn't work, they would scream and yell at us, so we needed to fix it. And along with this, it's a connected device. DrinkMate plugs into your smartphone. We have access to the data from that. We can move forward with all sorts of interesting ideas, features. It's a really new take on hardware. And it's exciting, and that's kind of the theme behind all of the products we create. Because again, DrinkMate is just our first product. And they kind of show the success with this. These are the readings coming in from all around the world. And it's incredible that the US, while there's a lot of readings in the US, it's actually a small portion of the readings coming in. Australia, Russia, China, Europe, especially Germany. Germany is a big hotspot. It's really, really cool to see all this coming in live and know that these are people using your product live. And that's what we strive for with our products. So kind of wanted to, that's it for the slides I had. Kind of wanted to take questions from you guys. What questions do you have about hardware product development, the life cycle, kind of the experiences we've had?
I have a question with your Kickstarter campaign. How did you get the word out there to get people to, contribute to your Kickstarter campaign?
So we had a list of probably 200 media outlets that we were going to reach out to. And that's kind of the shotgun approach, but you have to customize every release to them and say why your product is different. Because breathalyzer technology is old, it's been around forever, but we need to show why it is different. We need to show the excitement. And it was difficult to convey. And one of the ways I did that was showing it next to a chapstick. And it's amazing to see people's faces. You show them a DrinkMate or a picture. In person, it's easy because they can see how small it is. But over digital communications, you see, okay, there's a picture of DrinkMate, whatever. Then you show it next to a chapstick, and they'd be like, holy crap, like that is small. And then all of a sudden they were interested. So you've got to find that niche that really gets people excited about it. And it just took a lot of brainstorming, a lot of time, a lot of iterations of going through what to actually ask people. But for the first campaign, a lot of the publicity came organically. We were very lucky. We were featured at Mashable, TechCrunch. Really cool stuff came from it. And for the second one, thankfully I knew that wasn't going to happen again. I was hoping it was going to happen again, but it didn't happen again. So I went international and I started reaching out to markets that I knew would be interested, but hadn't heard of it before. And then went with that. And then I actually leveraged the first campaign and said, oh, we've been featured in TechCrunch for this. Now, don't you want to write about us? So that's It's kind of the strategy for that.
Okay. And why is it it's always so important for as a company like yours to come out with the Android? Because I've been hearing more it should fit with the iOS platform versus the Android first.
Yeah, so actually Android was just out of necessity. My engineering capabilities allowed me to create the first prototype of Android, but then I needed to bring on a team in order to finalize that and then move into iPhone. There's a lot more security measures, a lot more requirements. It's a much more it's a completely different and a much more complicated product. So that's why we chose Android first. But yes, going forward, unfortunately, it will be either iPhone only or iPhone first, definitely. Yeah.
How did you apply an agile process to hardware?
You mean just flying by the seat of our pants? So,
what was the question?
how do you apply an agile process to hardware? And I mean, if you want to jump in here, Nancy, it doesn't. But that's what we're trying to do moving forward. For what we've done up until now, it's been very much trying to get things done as intelligently as possible without implementing necessarily the correct processes. So now this year is where we're implementing that process, and we're excited to start doing things right. And a lot of that was just purely lack of funding. It's amazing how easy it is to say, oh, just do this, follow this process, and then you're just forgetting that time is money. And the more, it took me a while to create the Android version, but if I was full-time on it, probably about 2 months to create it. The iPhone version took us almost a year of development. Full-time, going at it, trying to conquer challenges over and over and over again. It's just a much different beast. But now that we've done that, we can actually get the experience to move forward properly. Any other questions? Yeah, there in the back.
I have two questions. One is, how do you plan for the future when the new iterations of an iPhone product or whatever's coming in Android? Do you have a plan for that, not to get the system down? And then my second question was outside consultants that you hire. Did you hire an outside marketing consultant or some design consultants when you were developing the product?
Very good question. So planning for the future, Apple is very secretive. It's rough. It's shocking, but when they come out with a new iPhone, the companies don't get access to the specs for the iPhone or the device itself until launch day. I was truly shocked, and I had to get on the phone with somebody at Apple, and I said, is this really how companies develop? And he's like, yeah, don't you have a team for that? And I'm like, yeah, sure. We've got a team that can handle that. Like the new phone that came out, the iPhone SE, we have to go get one, and thankfully everything should be fine for that. But if they had made a major change with it, it probably would have gotten us a little worried. For example, the new iPhones might do away with the audio port. Some of our competitors, most of our competitors, use the audio jack, and if they get rid of that, that product will be null and void. Thankfully, we used the Lightning connector, and we kind of looked at what Apple's trends were, and they did say this verbally to us on the phone, that the Lightning connector is durable, it's here to stay for a while, it's not going anywhere. So we've kind of planned along those routes. But yeah, if they make a change, we have to adjust, and we have to adjust quickly. And then, what was your second question again?
I want to know if when you got internet marketing up and public relations and design, do you have to hire outside consultants for that?
We tried hard. The initial design was actually, the concept of it was entirely mine, and I'll chalk that up to luck. I don't have a strong design background, but I knew what I personally wanted, and that's dangerous. You're not supposed to do that when designing products. But I asked people, and they were just fascinated by the chapstick design and really liked that. So when you're bootstrapping, I say go to your friends, ask questions. When we got into logos and actual design of the product, I did try to outsource it and get other people to give us ideas, and it was terrible. I mean, sometimes they gave us a good idea, but it wasn't what we were looking for. So we just started asking people, everybody, saying, what do you think of this? What do you think of this? I mean, I must have sent out 100 texts to everybody I knew with just 2 pictures, side by side. Which do you like? And that's a great way for the logos. We'll be doing that going forward with our next products, just saying like, which do you like more, and iterate on that, move forward, and you eventually find what the market wants. It would be nice to, we've had some challenges with outsourcing design. We've gotten some good things. Our app redesign was done by an outside individual, but it gets a little flaky when they're not on full time. So if you find a good designer, a good outside marketing person, hold on to them, please, because that's quite valuable and challenging. Especially with marketing, there's a lot of fluff out there. I mean, it's almost daily where somebody says, oh, I have this many subscribers to my YouTube channel, we can feature you with this, or with this, and then I'll say, show me tangible evidence of you doing something, and like the Google Analytics of converting over to sales. And we've worked with some partner apps, and one in particular, they sent out 500,000 emails. And I was stoked, I was so excited, I thought it was a good market, and we got 8 sales from it. It was unbelievable. And it was kind of unfortunate because I had to go back to this person and say, your user base doesn't spend money. Like, they're zero interest in spending money. And that's kind of what he was pitching his whole company is, that I've got this user base that's so valuable. And I was like, oh my God, your user base isn't that valuable. So it's really fascinating what kind of insights you get. So I guess another important thing with that is having the back end to be able to track it. We did hire an outside consultant to get Google Analytics up to spec, and that's something that was very important. I said, when a sale comes through from a source, we need to know exactly how it got there. But even that, in some cases, wasn't enough. For a while, we had a drop-down box on our website that said, how did you hear about us? And that's where we found out about all the Australian sales, because they started coming in and we had no idea. It just didn't match up, and it turns out a newspaper down there put us in there. And they had all heard about us from there, and were just finding us online. Yes?
I'm just really curious. Do you have any plans to sort of reproduct the data you're getting?
We do, because it's very unique data. It's unadulterated. We're talking with some research agencies because they're very interested in this honest data coming in about drinking habits, about how much people are drinking. You can survey people all you want, but even if they're trying to be honest, they really won't know what they've done. But this it's just there. They can't lie with this kind of data. And it's fascinating being able to look at it. You can see people take a lot of readings from the user company. It's not just one and that's it. They take so many readings, it's crazy. And we can see their BAC level coming down throughout the night. One kind of horrifying example is we saw somebody at oh my gosh, he was at like a 0.16 at midnight. And we saw him taking readings all the way until like 6 a.m. and then just gave up. He was still drunk at 6 a.m. So it's fascinating with the data on the back end. Yes?
So you mentioned that you're going to another round of funding, and is it going to be through a different platform, or are you going to do Kickstarter, and also who and how are you going to reach out to people to fund your next project?
So we have an interesting process. When we release products, we of course analyze the market, but that's not good enough for us. We test the market, and we do it with Kickstarter. Thankfully, the products we create are fun and appropriate for a crowdfunding platform. I mean, not necessarily Kickstarter, we can use Indiegogo, but Kickstarter is, in general, a little bit better for us. We test the markets, and then we move into wholesale distribution, and then our final stage is doing direct-to-consumer through marketing. And that process is something we've refined now with 2 launches of DrinkMate, each version. And with the new products, we're going to follow that process, and that's what we're kind of touting this next round of investment for. We're saying we're having people invest in the parent company, EdgeTech Labs, and that's what they're really excited about because they've seen our process and they like what we're doing and they're excited for the future. We don't have to talk about much what we're doing because we've done it twice in a row. They trust that, and it's what they want to get involved with. What was the second part of your question?
I think you answered it.
Okay. Any other questions? I guess I'll say one of the, with hardware, you have to be prepared for the unexpected. We have done some crazy development cycles. I know in China, we spent 2 nights in our manufacturer's office working constantly, back to back all-nighters, and it's amazing how, as crazy and as rough and as stressful as that is, the excitement of creating something that's your own keeps you going. And it's that excitement that's what's driven us to hardware. So it's fun to bring hardware into the modern age with this kind of data coming in. Well, thank you for listening. If you have any other questions or just want to take a look, I'll be up here eating my lunch. So.